Hello and welcome to Mobility Outlook. Today's guest for us is Mr. Vivek Vikram Singh, Group CEO, Sona Comstar. Welcome, Vivek.
Hi, Murli.
Hi. First of all, let me ask you about the Q3 results. What are the key drivers for the 54% revenue growth and 65% PAT year to date?
Glad you mentioned YTD because Q on Q in automotive is not
I know.
actually a very relevant data point. So the biggest drivers I would say have been the new orders that we won on the back of electrification. Otherwise, if you look at the industry overall in the first 9 months of this year versus last fiscal, actually it's a little bit down. It's 1% down from last year if you look at global auto sales. In that environment, to have grown at such a fast rate is because a lot of new programs kicked in. Almost all of them being in the battery electric space. So that was the big driver of growth.
Can you tell us about the new products and the 17,000 crore worth of order book?
So, Muli, as you know, we've been as a company around for 22 years. And if you look at our 22 years CAGR growth rate, it's about 36%. Now, in order for you to continue growing at 36%, the only way is if you keep winning more and more new business. Because industry will never grow at 36% or even close to that.
Correct.
Now that the biggest reason or the biggest emphasis as a KPI we put on order book, because whatever you do today, whatever business we develop, whatever new products we develop and go sell, they eventually will come into revenue stream 2-3 years later. Which is why building onto the order book and always having a much bigger pipeline, that is the most important thing for us. So yeah, it's I think 17,600 crore is the net order book. And when I say net order book, it means the value of all new or incremental revenue that is going to come from programs that have not yet started or not yet fully ramped up in the next 10 years. Minus the value of all the programs that are either going to be phased out or are reaching end of life.
Okay.
So this gives a much truer picture, also is far less prone to error, because if you give a short-term projection 1 or 2 years, as you know, in automotive programs often get delayed. But over a 10-year period, all of these things average out and you get to a much better number. So that's where it is. 2/3 of it is from electric vehicle space and the remainder is from traditional ICE vehicles. So as you can see, increasingly, the OEM focus is also growing on electrification. We are ahead of the curve, but electric will be the theme.
The commercial vehicles will continue to be hauled by IC engines. Do you see this segment will also grow in electric?
While you're right, when you say commercial vehicles, you're right about medium and heavy commercial vehicles.
Yep.
But the LCV segment is actually, and which is the larger part in volume terms of the commercial vehicle space, that is converting fairly rapidly to the electric powertrain.
I agree.
We only have one program for what we call CV in the medium and heavy commercial vehicle space. So yeah, you're right that medium to heavy still rare. Light commercial switching quite fast. Actually, I think for India specifically, if you look at the Indian market, the L5 cargo space, I think is quite ripe for electrification. I think there is a business and economic rationale there. I think there is a payback is faster with electric. So that will happen, I think.
Sona Comstar wanted to be a fully integrated e-drive unit maker for the world. Where do you stand now?
We put that out as our ultimate big, hairy, audacious goal. However, the more important thing always was that the ability to move along the spectrum to reach that goal. I'll tell you why. So let's assume the e-drive is made up of these 80 Lego bricks. It is the ability to make those Lego bricks and all permutation combinations of those, which is more important, because there aren't going to be too many customers who will actually buy the whole electric drive. We always knew that, because if you think about it, what is the electric drive? You put that, you attach a battery, you attach wheels, you're done. Now, how many automakers want to give away that degree of control? Because what is then left for the vehicle OEM to do here? Batteries, most of them are not making or are not capable of, or
Correct.
it doesn't make economic sense to make.
Absolutely.
Wheels, you are not going to make. So what are you going to make in the vehicle? Are you just an
Only
integrator?
assemble.
Correct. So, but if you know how to make the whole electric drive, different people will choose different combinations of make versus buy. So some people are saying, give me the differential assembly with final gear. Some people are saying, give me differential assembly with final gear along with the reduction gearbox. Some people are saying, just give me reduction gearbox. Some people are saying, give me motor. Some are saying, give me controller, give me motor and gearbox. So you need to be able to make all. Hence, you have the flexibility to offer any solution that the OEM will look for, which was always the goal. And we started right from, like I say, the Lego block, which is the gear. The gear is the smallest component of this big thing. On the motor side, the rotor stator are the smallest things.
Yeah.
So from rotor stator and gear, we make the, let's call it the sub component, to the component, to the subsystem, to the system. The ability has to be everywhere so that we can capture all the value addition. And also because that is the only way you can iterate at each level and improve the net product. And that's what our entire play was. Even when we met at the Auto Expo at that time, what did we make? We had just started making differential assemblies, gears, and we had started doing some motor work. Integration was so far away. Now we've already started getting more and more value in that box. So it started, we've sold a few e-axles already, mostly in the three-wheeler space. I think we have 3 programs or 4 programs of e-axles. We are also getting some nice and interesting higher end motor projects. So it's going well.
So higher end motor projects for even the four-wheelers?
Not yet. Still getting there, but we have got to the stage of let's say L5 in three-wheelers. So we're talking about, we still, I would say below 10 kilowatt is where we are still. I think it's more than the power, it's the voltage. As you climb the voltage system, the functional safety and overall, it become more and more complicated. And that complexity is what we're trying to master. Obviously, there have been some happy deviations from the goal towards just electric axle. And you saw that we made that. But this is the beauty and joy of invention and innovation, right? That
Absolutely.
you're making something and suddenly you make a new product out of it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah, the permutation combination will now probably help you with the out of the box thinking and then come out with the highly innovative solutions that are completely not thought of. No? Yeah.
Correct. So Murli, this is what I'm saying now. You give a child Lego blocks and just then the mind is not bound by the finite mindedness of design and what you can do. If you have the building blocks and the technology to shape them is in your control, the world's far more infinite than it was before. And that is the kind of organization we've always tried to build. That otherwise, in many companies, even we've had a JV, right? That you work to some companies work to the print of their customers, or you have technology, but the technology scope is so limited.
That's that. Well, when you have all the blocks, most of the blocks are all the blocks in that ecosystem. What kind of benefits that you get? Like, for example, in terms of economies of scale or standardization or rationalizing certain components or optimizing supply chain. There are a lot of avenues of opportunities for you to look at. What's your experience?
You're right, Murli. 2 things. More than supply chain. It gives you a lot more control on many iterations. See, if you are just the final system integrator or assembler, your entire thing is how many iterations can I do and how can I make the assembly better? That's all. So you only have control over 10%. If you buy, let's say like in our case, we buy steel and then the final product comes. The ability to change at every level is higher. And as you know, in any process, the earlier you make the change, it keeps amplifying. So the ability to derive a greater deviation from where you were is much higher.
Mm.
Second, which is quality, which is very, very important. I have to look at outside in from a customer perspective. Often when you buy a complicated system and there is a quality issue, the customer first talks to the system integrator who will blame it on one of the suppliers, and that supplier will say, no, it was the other thing. So in, let's say, a differential assembly, the guy will say, oh, final gear mating was not done properly. The other guy will say housing had some issues. The third guy will say gear had some issues. When you do everything, all of this in one place, the customer is more comfortable knowing that I am taking complete ownership. There is nothing that is outside our control. We are fully accountable.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, I think people who are authentic and own a sense of accountability, they do get a premium in anything.
Absolutely.
And
For the I think for the customer, there's a single point of contact. No, and then they like it. They like it. Yeah.
And can you imagine the engineering hassle in trying to figure out, let's say, NVH issue, right? And this happens a lot. And if you make the full transfer case or the gearbox for electric drive, noise is a big issue because the vehicle is completely silent. Even a small noise is very noticeable. So it will come back. Now there are hundreds of parts here. Who do you say was the person at fault? When you are the only one giving the solution, you're better. Second, margin. When you're the guy integrating hundreds of components from different people, everyone's put their margins. In our case, all the margins are internal, right? So it's easier to also control cost. And third, like you rightly said, value addition, value engineering becomes easy because you can affect each stage of the process. Higher control.
Comstar has a higher export revenue, whereas Sona has a higher domestic exposure, which will help in a normal situation to strike a balance. However, the pandemic defied all these strategies. How did you manage to tide over the pandemic crisis?
So two things. First is, you're right that Comstar, or the motor business as we call it today, was at that time 90% export, and I think Sona was 40 export and 160 domestic. I think that's flipped quite a lot. And now we are overall 75% of sales is international markets. What has happened is in the motor business, we have more domestic customers because we've entered the electric two-wheeler space. And in the driveline side, exports is what has grown because all the EV business, we make differential assemblies and units, and there isn't that much four-wheeler concentration of EVs in the world in India. We have 12.5% of the world market, so most of it is outside India. So it is not a reason that we said, oh, we prefer selling somewhere else. It is where the market is. We make final drive differential assemblies for electric vehicles. Where electric vehicles are sold, our products will be sold. If they're sold more in India, our India share will also increase. However, India is still in a few thousand, so it's a little underrepresented. It will catch up. And the second part of the question, pandemic. See, all diversification and all are useful when something at least is going
happens like this. Right.
Yeah. When everything falls, what diversification will help? However, what we do have is a very resilient business model. Our fixed cost is very low. Why? Again, that Lego block thing. We don't buy that much. Our value addition is very high because we buy almost core raw material. And in the motor business also, we buy copper wires, some stator rotor, some small parts. Because value addition is higher, fixed cost is low, we can derive high margin. And in really bad times also, we won't lose much money. So that's what I'm saying. We don't have to run at 100 to make a profit compared to many other people. We enjoy a lot of operating leverage in that sense. Fixed cost is fairly low. I would say 15% to 16% of revenue is fixed. That is it. So my break-even point is much lower than other people usually. And because of that, tough times, and I say this, I actually said this in the last call also, that we may be just good in good times, but we are great in tough times. We are actually exceptional in bad times. So right now, last quarter, you saw what happened, right? US, Europe sales fell by 20%. Everybody is hit. So everybody's profits would be down by what, 20%. Our sales also down YOY. Actually not down, up by 1%. So flat. But our profits are actually also like flat. Usually when your sales fall, profits fall far more.
Wow, yeah.
Not so much in our case. So it's a strength that we have inculcated because we have also seen the flip side of not doing it.
Okay.
See, when you get money after a lot of effort, right? When you actually haven't seen money for most of your life, you become really good at valuing it. A lot of people, when you get free access to capital, you start treating it as free.
Yeah.
Free capital, free advice, people don't value it as much. And we saw some very bad times. And from 2015 to 2017, you are well aware. I mean, in 2016, our net worth was negative. In 2017, Mitsubishi, we bought back 25% of stake in this company for just $10 million. So the value of our company was just 40 million we were valued at because we had huge debts. Cash was hard to come by. From that moment, we developed very, very frugal habits. And those habits is what is holding us in good stead today, right? We made a model in which fixed cost was just like, even now, even small expenses or headcount addition, all of us are really reluctant to do unless there is a really, really good reason to do. So it's habits like middle class Indians learn in their childhood only good habits, that if your shampoo is getting over, put some water, like make it last longer, make your money go further. You get better returns and you don't develop bad habits. That's the fiscal discipline.
Yeah, great. So you have electrical and then drivetrain solutions under one roof that actually transformed you into a holistic powertrain supplier. So what will be the probable step forward for you?
See, we started on this dream. 2016 is when we saw this dream, and the end goal of that dream was this fully electrified drive. There is nothing else beyond that from powertrain perspective, because then you'll have to start making the vehicle, which we never ever will go into making the vehicle. We see that as an inherent conflict of interest with our customers. I know in India and even in the world today, if there is no legal conflict of interest, people don't care much about it, but we do. We do want to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We don't even want to do minority investments in vehicle companies, because we don't want any customer to ever feel that, hey, I'm sharing this or co-developing this technology with this guy and he may have a better financial interest somewhere else. We want to be independent. So our goal was done then. Now, 16 to 22, we've enjoyed that ride on electrification. We have ridden that wave of electrification, which is why we have reached where we have. Autonomy, though, is a spectrum, not 2 points. And when I say autonomy is a spectrum, I don't just necessarily talk about a vehicle. We are between level 2 and level 3 in vehicle autonomy. I'm talking about systems. So let's say a steering system. As you know, earlier it used to be mechanical, then it became hydraulic or assisted, then it became electric. Now it's going towards electronic. Basically, same thing for transmission, same thing for suspension. Every subsystem and system is becoming smarter. What that means is there'll be more electronics and software, more decision making and more memory components, which in turn means for us that more lines of code per gram of metal is what is going to be the norm. And we believe that whoever can integrate software and hardware better over time stands a much better chance of getting ahead in the world. I think there was a KPMG report which said there is a $1 trillion opportunity by 2035, which will come from increasing autonomy in the mobility space. Now, a large part of it could just go to the big tech guys, the biggest technology companies of the world. It is ours to lose we do have an advantage. We are the people who make the hardware, and hence if we write the application layer on it, which is the application software, we have the ability to iterate and experiment more and more to actually model both to have the best mix, right? We can change the hardware as well as the software, not just one way.
Okay.
If you are a pure software guy, what you do is you take the existing hardware and write the best application for that hardware. I can actually tweak both to get the best end result. We have that ability, and it would be a shame if we miss it. So our direction is going to be in that direction, and we will keep picking products which are aligned to us. So around motors and gears, which are the two big areas of electrical and mechanical, and how much of, I would say, base software and application software we can add to it. The cloud layer obviously is never going to be with us, so that we will leave to telecom and big tech people. But the application software we should start writing. So yeah, I mean, I think right now we have about 29, 30 software engineers with us in our R&D team. It should increase to 50 very soon. I just put like a lot of job posts out there. So we are hiring all the time for that. Yeah, interesting future. And like I said, it will be a crisis for some who don't change, and it'll be an opportunity for those who do. So hopefully we do enough to land on the second half, not the first half of people.
Wow, that's interesting to know. The next step is going to be more of electronics and software. Vikram, you had almost a 7% share in CVs when they try another products, and about, I think, close to 7% again in off highway, right? Off highway, almost 90-95%. So there is a little headroom, but you had a lot of headroom in the passenger vehicle segment.
True.
What is it now? What's the status now?
I think it's similar. So it's 55 to 60% in passenger vehicle. I think 75 to 80% in off highway, and you're right, 95 to 100 in CV, depending on which customer is selling more and which is less. That keeps changing.
That is also there.
It's not really ours to control.
Yeah.
I think it will remain. It is maxed out because the customers who are not sourcing from us are people who usually have their own captive units. Like I said, the global automotive or mobility industry is a very, very large pie. We are happy with our corner. We don't have to work with everyone. Everyone doesn't have to work with us. It is healthy. Ours is to be independent and keep working and improving on our technology. We believe in the right and good kind of capitalism, which is competition increases innovation. Just because you don't have dependence or you don't have guaranteed income or guaranteed flow of business makes you keep proving yourself over and over again and keeps making you better. When you're guaranteed business or market share because someone is, let's say if I was working for my father and I would always have his support no matter what, not too many levers for me to improve myself as a human being. To each their own, I say, but it works for us.
You were also developing belt-driven starter generators for hybrid vehicles and low voltage inverters. What's the current status?
So low voltage inverters are already out there. I think we have a couple of customers in the electric two-wheeler space, couple of customers in the electric three-wheeler space. So they are running on the roads, and it's actually going pretty well. I mean, as you know, that large part of those inverters are basically the ability to write software, and that is why I said that we have to keep growing in that area. BSG is in testing with some customers, but successful in a very unexpected way. We still haven't managed to sell a single BSG commercially, but we managed to sell something else because of the BSG research. So yeah, I mean, no knowledge ever goes to waste, right? So you learn something, if you understand what you're learning, the very basic building blocks of it, you have many abilities to apply it in different and innovative fashion. And I think that knowledge is holding us in good stead.
When do you plan to commence commercial production?
FY25 is the launch of SOP of the vehicle. So FY25.
And little bit update on the manufacturing facilities. You have all the capacities, or you need something because you have huge
motors. Capacity is fairly good. In the differential assembly, yeah, we are running out of capacity. On gear side, it's been good, but that also we are expanding. We were setting up a plant in Chakan. That's progressing well. Hopefully, in the next few months, that will start running also. So it will be a massive gear plant, 10-acre plant, which is once commissioned, it will be the largest plant we have from the driveline side.
What's a long-term plan? Lastly, I would like to know.
So medium term is what we work for all the time anyway. 15 years is what. So we have this internal rule. We call it the 15-year razor, that whatever we do today, we look at and we say anything new while we explore. Will it exist in 15 years or not in the vehicle of the future? And if it doesn't, we just drop it. Because you don't want to get into any business whose terminal value can be zero.
Okay.
And we don't set out financial goals. We have a product roadmap. That is our North Star. That is also our strategy. We are one of the few companies who I think our strategy is put on public, that this is a product roadmap. This literally is our strategy. If we do this well, and if we make those products economically, we will continue to gain market share. The financial returns are not what we target. They are a happy byproduct of trying to do the right thing, which is to make the best products we possibly can, then try to make the price as low as we possibly can, and then try to make them as fast as you possibly can. Try to turn it over as many times. So that's how our value system is. This is the route that we say: vitality, frugality, agility. Vitality, the first step is to make the best products we possibly can. The second one is frugality, to then first make it best, then try to make it as cheap as possible for the customer. And then agility, try to make it as fast as possible, because process innovation and optimization or validation is only the last step. You can only get incremental gains. Vitality and frugality are where you get more exponential gains. So we've kind of codified that into everything we do in KPIs, in our values. And we are of the firm belief that if we keep doing this and keep at it over and over again, there will be stumbles along the way. There'll be quarters of flat growth. There'll be bad quarters. All of that will happen, as it does in every life. But over the 10-year period, I think we'll come out well ahead on the financial results also.
Fantastic. On this note, Vivek, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for talking to Mobility Outlook. Thank you.
Thank you, Murli. As always, a pleasure catching up with you. And hopefully there is a physical auto expo and we'll meet again in our stall.
Looking forward to that.
Thank you. Thank you, Murli.